What's up, everybody? Welcome to another peaceful, soothing episode of Team Chit Chat, a subsidiary of Team Chat Podcast, where we talk about not games,
What?
the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. We talk about anything except games. Literally anything. It just can't be a video game. It could be a board game. It could be LARPing. It just can't be a video game.
LARPing.
Yeah, well, we don't LARP, unfortunately. But if we
should
did,
talk about. I should talk about my past as a sword fighter.
Yeah, you probably should.
That would be fun.
That would explain all the swords you have in the background all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
Anyways, so yeah, this is Team Chit Chat. Jerrett and I's time to talk about everything that we do in our lives and the other fun things that we like to actually spend our time with when we're not playing video games. Last time we talked about our Spotify, well, Jerrett's Spotify, my Pandora year in review, and that was a lot of fun. We learned a lot about each other, I think,
Yeah.
in that episode. And this time we're going to be talking about something that Jerrett is bringing to the table. Jerrett, what do you have for us today?
Well, today is not going to be music, and it's not going to be a board game. It is going to be a video game. Just kidding, it's not.
Oh my god, I was about to say band. You're not allowed to do that on here.
Drop that band hammer. No, Sam and I have been, my wife Sam and I have been along the side. Like we do another show she and I do called Culture Catch Up, where we talk about movies and stuff that we've watched. Where either we switch off, kind of similarly to how we do Team Chit Chat, where one of us will introduce the other to a movie, TV show, whatever that we missed out on. Well, in trying to kind of build up some backlog or just some ideas for that, or also just kind of be in the mood to watch movies, because as much as we like doing that show, it is actually very hard for us to sit down and watch a movie.
Dude,
and
my American attention span by this point is so low that I can hardly stand to sit through a whole movie.
I want to. I have so many movies I want to watch, but
I usually pause them halfway through and then come back to it another day because I'm so accustomed to episodes now. It's hard to get back into it.
I can't stop a movie and pause it. That drives me nuts. I can't do that. I have to if I start it, I'm in it and I have to be in there for it. So we were going to watch some of the newer releases or things that had been nominated for Oscars and different stuff like that coming up soon. And so we sat out one night. We're like, all right, we're going to do it. We're going to watch a new movie. And we just got nowhere and immediately then defaulted to not anything that was even on our list. And it wasn't even one that one of us had seen and the other hadn't yet. But we were still like, that looks fun. That looks lighthearted. And we want to try this out. And it was a documentary actually called The Last Blockbuster.
Oh yeah, we talked about this either on your stream or my stream. I remember you mentioning it.
Yeah. So it's a documentary. It came out last year and it's actually on Netflix. So you can go watch it there. But it is about the literal last Blockbuster video rental store that is open in America, and it's open in Bend, Oregon, and all this stuff. And so it follows around the general manager of the store, Sandy Harding. It follows her and her family, because it's basically her and her family who run it. Or if they're not family, she calls them her Blockbuster family, because she basically has employed every teenager, she says, in Bend, Oregon at some point or another at this Blockbuster store. And it was a really good documentary. It was more of an indie one, I think, an indie produced documentary, but it was really good. It had a couple parts that were like, wait, what are they talking about? Like, they went and talked to this old guy in New York for some reason who apparently just hates Blockbuster. I think he made a movie, I think Toxic Avenger, maybe it might have been what he made. I don't know. It was something like that. And apparently Blockbuster wouldn't put it in their stores and he was pissed. And so they just
God. Wait, I want a whole documentary about that.
I know, but
amazing.
They had to bleep every other word that he said, and he could barely understand him either. He was just like, I hate Blockbuster. They're stupid. I don't like them. And so we were both kind of like, why did they include that part? I don't really know. But anyway, it was still really cool though, because they talked a whole lot. And they had interviews with a whole lot of celebrities, which was a very random assortment of celebrities. And why are they interviewing all these people? For example, it was Adam Brody, Sam Levine, Ron Funches, Paul Scheer, Doug Benson. Doug loves movies and all that stuff, and Brian Posehn. And it was just, everybody was kind of we were just sitting there why are they interviewing these people? But then it becomes clear throughout the documentary, all these people at one point or another worked at Blockbuster.
Oh, I see.
And so
I thought maybe they were just going to be Blockbuster fan.
Exactly, right? Like, that's kind of what it seemed like. And they were just going to be like, hey, do you like Blockbuster? And are you a celebrity who has time to sit down for our documentary? Well, come on down.
Boy,
But
have
no,
I got great news for you.
I know. And so it's just a really cool documentary, literally documenting this very last building and store of what was once such an incredible franchise. And it obviously goes to like the history of Blockbuster, how it got its start, how it grew into the powerhouse of video rental that it was. And then it even goes into like what actually brought about its end and stuff like that. So that was all very,
was
very
it
interesting.
Netflix? Is that what they said?
They said it was no, actually. I'm honestly blanking, and I don't want to give too much of it away. But like,
Was it Batman? Did Batman Blockbuster?
Yes, because he found out the Joker started running it, and it was a front. And he's like, nope, gotta stop this. But it really talked about all that stuff and like the business behind it and like what did eventually cause. It actually said, okay, so I will go ahead and just reveal that it wasn't Netflix that killed Blockbuster. It was the end of their late fees. They canceled doing late fees. And that was like their late fees made up such a huge chunk of their revenue that after they got rid of that, to be able to kind of try to be more competitive with other things in other markets, that it kind of tanked it. Because they said like Netflix, when it started and they started becoming competitors, Netflix had nowhere near the inventory that Blockbuster did or the distribution that Blockbuster did. So on paper, Blockbuster should have just stomped Netflix and all that stuff. So it was very interesting then to see like these other business decisions ultimately were the undoing, not the competition with Netflix, because from the get-go, Blockbuster had the upper hand.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that. I just kind of would have assumed that eventually they just got bowled over by the changing times, but I'm sure it would have probably happened eventually as Netflix's own library grew. But yeah, it's interesting to think about like the loss of revenue that can happen from what might on paper seem like a small decision.
Right.
And it's like, oh, actually that accounted for millions, perhaps even billions of dollars.
Oh, it was a lot. I don't remember the exact figure.
They do not return things.
Because one of the people they interviewed, I believe, was the CFO of Blockbuster, like near the end and all that stuff. And so it's just like, it was very, very interesting to like see how all that stuff came together. But the big takeaway though, from the end of the documentary, Sam and I both, we were sitting there, we were watching, and it ended, and I was like, damn it, I really wish I had worked at a Blockbuster now, because it just seems so cool. Like, they're all talking about like how it was an easy job, and I was like, yeah, sure, I would have much preferred to have spent my summers working in a Blockbuster than mowing lawns all year in the heat of the day. But it just, I don't know. And then watching it too, you obviously get the huge kick of nostalgia of like seeing seeing the inside of the store in Oregon, and that's still up and still looks like what old Blockbusters look like.
They don't have the budget to renovate.
No, it actually showed her. They still use like the same computer system that they did from like the 80s. So she has like stacks of old computers from the registers that are in like a back room in her store that are like, I was like, how have you not cleaned these? She popped one open at one point and just like dust bunnies everywhere. It was ridiculous.
Oh my God.
I was like, how are you not cleaning this stuff? But she said as the stores would slowly close, they would send her these computers so she could like pull parts from them and repair her computers to keep them working. Because it's like, this is the only remaining record of like how Blockbuster ran their inventory system.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was nuts. It was just like so much. And it's funny, like she's up on the ladder, like hanging up signs and stuff like that. She's doing it all, or like her family and employees are doing it all. But I was just like,
what? You gotta admit, what an incredible legacy, not for Blockbuster, but for her. Like that person, it's like, wow, look at the scale of your accomplishment in comparison to the crumbled empire around you.
Oh, for sure. And it was just a lot of it too, because it was just like, you know, there's always kind of that like threat that the next year could be the last year. Because I want to say it was Viacom, I think, who owns it technically now. And so it's like she has to like go through hey, are you going to let us still use the name and everything like that? And like, and all this different stuff. And like, will this still be able to be open next year kind of thing? Yeah. And she even goes to Target, because they don't have vendors anymore necessarily like they used to in the old days to just send her like shitloads of new movies and stuff like that. So if there's new releases that she needs, she literally goes to the Walmarts and Targets in Bend and buys them.
Oh my God.
And then puts them in the store for people to then rent. It's crazy. It was so crazy. But it just like filled me with this nostalgia, the childhood nostalgia of going in and like renting the movies and everything. And there's like, do you remember what Blockbusters smelled like?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mostly because like two of my most vibrant memories of Blockbuster are as follows. When I was younger, probably not like either, it would have been in Tennessee. So I would have been no more than 14. So I was probably between the ages of 12 and 14. And we went to Blockbuster and I managed to find a VHS of the movie Little Nemo in Slumberland. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Of course not. I
feel like that needs to be your next Team Chit Chat.
God, it should be. That's a good idea. I can talk about one of my favorite movies. So Little Nemo's Adventures in Slumberland. So I'm like, oh yeah, you know Little Nemo. And they're like, yeah, the fish movie. No, you uncultured swine. You have no idea what you're talking about. It was this movie that obviously no one has heard about, except for the few people that rented it from their local library, probably. But I found a VHS of it at Blockbuster, and I go to check it out. And the lady who checked it out was like, wow, you're the first person in 3 years to pick this movie up. And I was like,
oh, wow.
And then, of course, later on, so we still had Blockbuster when I lived in Knoxville when I went to school. University. And me and one of my roommates had like a weekly tradition where we would go to Blockbuster on the weekends, go to the international film section, and just pick something at random. And we got some of the not wackiest, but some of the most interesting movies I think I've ever watched. That's where I first watched very famous Korean horror movie about twin sisters. Cannot remember what it's called. My bad.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar. I can't place it either.
Definitely knows. A Tale of Two Sisters. It's actually called
Tale of Two Sisters. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is. I knew it had a really tale of. Yes, it's very famous. 2003 Korean horror film. Really good movie. Highly recommend. But anyways, yeah, that's one of the ones that we watched on one of our international section Blockbuster excursions, and I miss those.
Nice. I know. I do too. One of the last Blockbuster memories I have, because there were Blockbusters here still in Austin when I moved here. There was one on campus is the last one that I remembered going to.
That makes sense.
I remembered going there and the UT campus. And even though I didn't go to UT, I just that was the closest one. So I was like, I'm going to go.
There was only one option.
Yeah. And so I remember going in there. And it was also like one of the first times that I think I actually went to a Blockbuster by myself to like get stuff. And I remember like checking out, I got like 5 movies. And I remember like to watch, and I remember going to check out, and I was like, $30. What is this? It's like, once you got all the candy and stuff to go with it, obviously too. Cause I was used to, before I moved to Austin and I lived in, back in Oklahoma still, in Norman, I went to the Family Video that was close by where I was living, and they had like, you could rent a like 50-cent movie for like a week or something like that. So I would like stock up. So I was used to doing that, rolled to Blockbuster to do it. And I was like, oh, now I understand why mom only let us get one movie at a time because it gets expensive quick.
Makes sense.
But I think one of the last movie that I rented from Blockbuster, I think was actually 300. The Zack Snyder movie about Battle of Thermopylae.
Yeah, don't you mean Thermometer? Thermopylae?
No, Thermopylae. But yeah, I think that was my last. That was my last Blockbuster memory, I think.
God,
and then, yeah, they slowly.
I wish I knew what the last movie I ever rented was.
Right, that'd be cool. I do think. I think it was 300. Yeah, I know. You never think about it till it's too late.
Yeah.
You know.
Damn.
But I know. But anyway, so yeah, the last Blockbuster, it was a really, really good documentary. For nothing else, if you want to go around, just go down that memory lane, because it brought back the nostalgia big time. And it had a lot of good interviews too with people who lived in Bend and like were big movie buffs there, and just like what that particular store has meant through them through their whole lives. And so it was just a really, really, really good movie, really great time. And Sam and I just had an absolute blast watching it. So I thought, man, gotta spread the good word and tell more people to go watch the last Blockbuster. So That is what I had prepared for today.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. This has been another episode of Team Chit Chat. Thank you for joining us on our little subsidiary adventure here. And next time, maybe we'll talk about Little Nemo's adventures in Slumberland. Yes.
I have no idea what that is.
We never know what we're going to talk about next time, so I'll think of something probably 5 minutes before we record.
Woo!
All right. Well, thanks for sharing, Jerrett, and we will see you all next time. Peace out.
See y'all.